Today on the Topping Show, multiple statues of obese black women pop up all over. Letitia James is called out for mortgage fraud at a recent speaking event. The Secret Service is testing the new Corvette and Cadillac CT5V Blackwing. Mazda Miatas with V6s are coming to the US thanks to UK builder. A male pitcher dominates the female league in Minnesota. And a gas valve is being recalled because it might just, burn you. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is probably sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase with Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower. And lastly, trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part podcast, you have the Mazda Miata with a V6 coming to the Americas thanks to a UK company. Perhaps the only useful thing the UK, probably the only useful thing the UK has done is in how many years? Quite a few. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Motor1.com. And there you can see there, little Mazda Miata with the cute pop-up headlights. And they say, quote, a UK company is bringing a V6 powered Miatas to Americas. They're using the Rocketeer says they're sticking a Jaguar V6 NA into MB Miatas. The result is a car that's no heavier and a lot more powerful. So it'll have the reliability of a Jaguar, which that's hilarious because notoriously they are not very reliable. Although maybe as reliable as a Ford, who's also had 40 recalls this year thus far. But another topic for another time, perhaps. Again, this is brought to us thanks to Motor1.com, specifically Chris Parkins, and he says, quote, one of the many great things about the Mazda Miata is that it's a great platform to build upon. A decent roomy engine bay in NAs and MBs accommodate a ton of engine swaps. Ford and Chevy V8s are very common. K-Series Honda engines are getting more and more popular as well. One company in the UK is Rocketeer is swapping out Jaguar V6s and they're now coming to America. They say that Rocketeer has just took a new round of funding and it's using the money to bring its wares to the US. Rocketeer calls their MX V6 appropriately and it's offered as a turnkey build or do-it-yourself kits. The intent is to bring turnkey and resto-modded cars to the United States. And the outside of that Mazda Miata does look pretty cool. But let's look at one of the most beautiful things, the engine bay. There you go. Got some nice little carbon fiber intakes. Now they say, shockingly, for a modern resto mod, the MX V6 conversion is relatively affordable, at least in the UK. The Rocketeer will convert your Miata for about $22,000, which, with labor, that's not terrible, actually. Now I say the DIY kits start at $8,000 for the hardware. The hardware and electronics is $2,260. Oh, sorry. So it's $8,000 for the hardware, $2,260 for electronics. Rocketeer also sells rebuild and reworked Jaguar V6s for, well, who cares about those? It's labeled in what do they use in Harry Potter? Shillings or galleons? Pretty sure they use that currency in the UK. It's just as legitimate as any fiat currency. They say this Jaguar V6 might not be very familiar with Americans. The AJ30 is a naturally aspirated 60-degree 3-liter based on the very well-known Ford Duratec with a Cosworth design cylinder head. Jaguar debuted it in the S-Type and kept it in production up to the early versions of the first generation XF. It was also an option on the X-Type and XJ, and Ford borrowed it for the base Lincoln LS. Who doesn't aspire to have the power of a Lincoln? Now they also say the engine is all aluminum and is actually lighter than the NA and MB Miata's iron block 4-cylinder. In stock, it makes 280 horsepower, over 100 more than the turbocharged Mazda Speed Miata. Rocketeer makes a version of the engine that outputs 375 horsepower and revs up to 9,000 RPM, which is pretty fun, which makes it sound like a good time to us. Note that the engine is not a 90-degree V8 based or V6 Jaguar and Land Rover used for many years. Rocketeer also offers full-on resto mods with reworking suspensions and trim. It also is working on an ultra-light car called the Kiero. For that, it's targeting a weight of under 1,900 pounds and 350 horsepower from Jaguar V6. It's also working on the conversion for the NC Miata. They can't wait to see more. Let's actually pull up a cool promotion picture right next to an aeroplane. which, yeah, if you just put any car on a runway, it automatically looks 10% cooler. But, I mean, also, you're losing the most reliable thing about the Miata, which is its, straight four cylinder engine. And again, I'm not sure how many people actually want a V6. It is, I mean, the fact that the weight is neutral, like it's not putting on a bunch of weight to it, is awesome from a performance perspective. And again, this isn't going to be like I would suppose this isn't going to be a daily driver. It's more of a fun toy. No one's going to really depend on this, every single day you get to work necessarily. So maybe it's okay. It's not, the utmost reliability, but still cool to see a little Mazda Miata getting some little reworks. And man, if I could do it all over again, I would have got one of the $3,000 Mazda Miatas off of Craigslist when they used to be that price point years ago. Because it is probably bar none the best ROI or, well, make money on it, but it's probably one of the best track toys in terms of all the consumables are cheap, aka the tires, the brake pads, the fluids, the weight balance is darn near perfect, and it's a fun little car. I mean, shoot, there's a whole class of racing called Spec Miata or Mazda Spec. Is that popular? And there's probably more aftermarket Mazda Miata companies and accessories than AR-15 accessories, which is saying something. But yeah, definitely wish I would have bought one of these years ago, and it'll be interesting to see in terms of the volume how many they actually sell in the US. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the cultural part podcast, you have a male pitcher dominating the women's leagues in Minnesota as leftist states and cities continue to say, yeah, let's have men compete in women's sports. Now, this is first brought to us thanks to Libs of TikTok, in which she says, quote, meet, quote, Marissa Roethlisberger, a 6-foot-tall male pitcher pretending to a female who is dominating girls' high school softball in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, which, yes, I do purposely mispronounce that state as a slight to them. Now, they say girls only hit 12% of his pitches, and he's only allowed a single hit in a recent game. It's really good. Well, not really, because he's cheating. Even the announcers acknowledge his physical advantage, despite him pretending to be a girl. Roethlisberger is a cheater. Keep men out of women's sports. Oh, jeez, look at the size of his biceps. That is just comical. Well, I guess dark humor because it's sad because, again, it's hurting other girls and their opportunities for scholarships.
Meet Marissa Roethlisberger, a male pitcher absolutely dominating girls softball in Champlin.
What is that? What's that crappy move? Oh, some people like it. The Nightmare Before Christmas? Is that Jack Skellington or whatever that guy is? Look at the frame on that thing. Does X need to buy more servers or infrastructure? I do a network text before I do every episode. Spoiler, it's not my network that's the issue here.
Marissa Roethlisberger, a male pitcher absolutely dominating girls softball in Champlin, Minnesota.
And the pitch. Roethlisberger back in the fifth. Swing and a miss here first. 0-2 pitch. Strike.
Roethlisberger, at 6 feet tall, appears to tower over his female competition. In this game on May 6, 2025, he threw 7 strikeouts and shut out the opposing team. Apparently, Roethlisberger's batting against average is .128, meaning opposing girl players only hit 12% of his pitches, which is considerably better than elite MLB players. He recently had an absurd 14 strikeouts in a single game.
Who were the losers cheering that on?
Really amazing was listening to the dense male announcers as they gush about Roethlisberger's wingspan and how hard he throws it.
See how she whips it? The long arms is just such an advantage.
Wow.
The whip action of that long arm for Roethlisberger.
He's a boy, guys. Get it? He's male. And it's cheating. Stop gushing. The male coach who coaches Roethlisberger was gushing too.
Our pitchers do a phenomenal job. We have Marissa Roethlisberger. They keep us in every game.
What's not to like about having a male ringer on the team? Except it's cheating, of course. Roethlisberger is apparently hoping to get recruited onto a women's softball team in college somewhere, and I found his profile on recruiting sites. But hopefully this helps expose the cheater before he can cheat any more girls out of their opportunity.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, the announcers are probably spineless losers who, I mean, they'll say anything to keep their job. They don't have any integrity. That's, unfortunately, far too common in the United States these days. Yeah, and it's, again, another example of, again, someone's going to get that scholarship, and he will probably get it. Because, a lot of colleges will applaud this individual. They'll call him brave. But, yeah, it's really just disgusting and stealing opportunities. Now, so pre-vol got 3.3 million views and 45,000 likes. One of the top comments comes to us thanks to Liv's TikTok saying excellent video and coverage by hashtag BAC37, Who's Brett Craig, who's a gentleman in the announcement. Give him a follow there. And XXYY Athletics. Make sure to give him a follow. She got 1,000 likes. Gunther Eagleman says this has to be stopped, getting 695 likes. 696 likes now. Paul Zazupa says, quote, men like Roethlisberger should be in jail. They'll never stop abusing women otherwise. Getting 193 likes, which, yeah. But unfortunately, I mean, I don't think, technically not, well, they are breaking the rules, but it was like an Air Bud thing. Just are some of these not technically written down or something like that? No, they are. People are just ignoring it. But yeah, I don't think they'll ever actually face any repercussions. The Vault says the Jim from The Office, whiteboard meme, and it says there's no such thing as a trans child. We have confused children with sick enabling adults, getting 320 likes. You also have Rogelio, with a guy and a girl with it holding a poster board, says, quote, the weakest men compete with girls, the weakest minds celebrate it. True, getting 360 likes. 361. We also have Simon Grunchy saying, quote, men's sports is not a retirement plan for failed athletics. Or sorry, women's sports is not a retirement plan for failed male athletics. And that got 374 likes, which is quite a few to say the least. Sputnik. What? I was going to say. What is that? That satellite has time to tweet? Says, quote, why can't these people just let our women be women? Are they that desperate to win? Yes, they are. Getting 317 likes. Love Her Madly says, quote, every single female player and their parents and their friends need to just stand there with their arms folded and refuse to play. Start chanting, get him off the field. If you don't unite and fight back, this will continue. Yep. Getting 379 likes, which, I mean, the other issue is a lot of women, I think, are too scared to speak up, and they also have the group think. If you look at who celebrates men competing in female sports the most, it's usually liberal white women with college degrees. Overwhelmingly. Very similar to voting patterns, as this has become a political thing as well. You also have, let's see, scrolling down more and more. Divisive content says, quote, this nonsense needs to come to an end and should have never been allowed to happen in the first place. Anyone defending this at this point is just retarded or corrupt, getting 198 likes. Let's see. I don't see any contrarian statement thus far. You have an AI-generated picture of Clint Eastwood holding up a t-shirt from when he was in The Good, Bad, the Ugly. It says, a good kick in the balls will solve your gender confusion, getting 118 likes. I was going to say, unless the corrupt evil doctors, remove some of that. A lot of amazing cartoons comparing, men competing in female sports. Let's see here. Mitch says, well, quote, this is Tampon Tim's Minnesota, the worst governor in the history of the state. Arrest him. It says, this little parody of a news article saying missing Minnesota governor, last seen living in Minnesota, looking for the governor to address $18 billion in runaway Democrat surplus spending, $10 billion in Democrat tax increases, $6 billion in Democrat budget deficit, $610 million in government fraud. To their defense, they need to increase the taxes and make more money in Minnesota to give it to the Somalians that they import there. That's not even a joke. They did import a lot of Somalians to help Omar get reelected, I suspect. There's a reason their weak state changed their glorious flag, well, I would say at least not viscerally unappealing flag, to one that is now a rudimentary design of this country of Somalia. Which, yeah, that'll make society Minnesota great. I'm sure they'll be the fantastic engineers at 3M soon. I mean, maybe. But we're not seeing a lot of simulation these days. We'll see. Nancy Percolate says, quote, you would think that a boy would consider it shameful to win against girls, getting 81 likes. You would think, but he also gets more praise by leftists, and he'll be made famous by doing this as well. Again, this is a huge incentive mechanism. They're not doing this out of random. They want to win, in this case by cheating. And again, they'll be praised. Probably the best example is Dylan Mulvaney was made a millionaire by leaning into this stuff. Now, he didn't compete, but he did, transition or identified. I don't think that's even a debate in the trans community. I don't believe Dylan took any of the actual necessary drugs that they would consider for transition. And yet, millions of dollars from major companies were sent to Dylan. He made bank. He's set for life if he invested properly. I actually don't know. I can't fathom where all the money went. But nevertheless, again, there are incentive mechanisms as to why people are doing this. I mean, hopefully, I suspect long-term there'll be more lawsuits with doctors' malpractice. And that, again, Big Pharma has a big incentive as well because they get customers for life once people go down that track. So we'll see. But, I mean, culturally speaking, I think this is kind of decreasing in the United States. I can't but think a lot of people voted for Donald Trump. Again, he won also, the major, he also won the popular vote. I think because people are starting to reject this. So I think we're going to see less of this, but leave me in the comments because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have multiple fat black women statues popping up all over for no one can think of a reason. Now, it's brought to us thanks to End Wokeness. He says, quote, I have just one question. Why? Now, most famously, the obese African-American woman, they had a statue of her in Times Square earlier this week for no apparent reason. I think technically they were saying it was to celebrate diversity or something because they're not representative herd. Which definitely isn't. That's not why. And now they're just random obese black women all over. They're all bronze. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's probably high quality bronze. I'm not sure about the emulgate metallurgy of the actual statue. It's probably high quality bronze, but yeah, they're all just random obese in sweatpants and t-shirts. Now he says why. I mean, I think it's to celebrate mediocrity. This person isn't a famous anything. They didn't accomplish anything in their life. It's just random. It's not a musician or shoot. Even though I'm not a fan of any actors or actresses, I mean, shoot, I would at least understand, like, if you were in a couple movies that made billions of dollars and people loved, you'd be a cultural icon. There'd be a significance. There's achievement. Yeah, but no, this isn't a scientist. This is an entrepreneur. I'm not a fan of most politicians getting statues, but it's not even an accomplished politician. Just, regular person. And I was going to say, put another dollar in the Donald Trump is right jar, as, yet, once again, he saw it years ago when they were tearing down Confederate statues. Where will it end? Will they start taking down, Abraham Lincoln and Jackson? And yeah, truth be told, they exactly did that. And now that they replaced and tore down a lot of historic statues, now they're putting up their own in true 1984 George Orwell fashion, as anyone who has read a history book would have seen coming a mile away. Now, I thought this would go more viral. It got about 600,000 views and 15,000 likes. I mean, one of the first ones comes from Based Electrician, says, quote, this is a global demoralization psyop, but mediocre is normal. Or sorry, be mediocre and normal. Yep. And that got 767 likes. Now, this isn't the number one response by number of likes, but it is the most handsome. For me, the topping show, I say, quote, celebrate mediocrity and hate being exceptional. I got 7 likes. Although I would argue those are the best 7 people of all time, obviously. Barefoot Pregnant says, quote, it's about time we focus on true values, not virtue signaling. And here you can see a beautiful statue from 1895. I forget what god that is with Greek mythology. There's so many. But there's a guy who's, in shape. He's got 6-pack, pecs, arms built bigger than people's muscular thighs. And then you have the fat black African-American woman from 2025 getting 902 likes. You also have Gunther Eagleman saying, quote, it makes no sense whatsoever, getting 572 likes. American Papa Bear says, quote, pure retardation, getting 127 likes. Paul Zupa says, quote, the left hates all things good. That's why getting 196 likes. Cool Christian Engineer, says they should have used these ones, use these ones, not one like this. Wait, they should use these ones, not one like this. Is that grammatically correct? I don't know. I think that's a statue. Is that Mother Teresa? Is it a saint with an AR-15? An exceptional firearm by Eugene Stoner, don't get me wrong. I'm not sure the significance of that particular statue. I got 29 likes. We also have anti-woke memes saying, quote, they attempted to rebel against God. This picture says, statue inspired by Christian values. It's a beautiful, I believe it's Michael the Archangel fighting against a demon. And then you have inspired by atheist values. And it's just literally a person with like demonic, like 8 heads, like a serpent, getting 207 likes. Like Eggshell, haven't seen that profile in a while. It says, quote, all of them waiting for the same baby daddy. 18 likes. There's actually a statue of George Floyd, a career druggie, and also famously robbed a pregnant woman at gunpoint. A staple of the culture in the city, I'm sure. Haha, that's sarcasm. He has a long track record of copious amounts of drugs, and that's actually the true cause of his death. Scrolling down more and more, Rika says, why not? It's a statue. Does it really upset you that much? A contrarian statement, finally. Now, one of the first responses is Ian saying it's a message, not just a statue, getting 34 likes, so not ratioed. Scrolling down more and more. John B says, no one has torn them down because we are not emotionally mature, getting 19 likes. Yep. Joe says, remember 2020, what happened to his statues? Who were the ones upset by them and tore them down, getting 24 likes. Yep. That one guy has an AI picture of a Statue of Liberty now replaced for a very large African-American woman, getting 684 likes. Sarah Smith says, make it make sense. There's a picture of U.S. founding fathers, their statues are toppled over and spray painted, and then they replaced with the large woman, getting 241 likes. Anti-left memes says, there's many reasons why, and this is a tweet from Joseph saying, quote, America spent 50 years fighting the USSR to become a gay retard version of it. Getting 749 likes and, scrolling down more and more. Ruby2B says, racist statues. I've never seen statues have a husband, getting 249 likes. You also have Athena saying, quote, diversity means fewer white people. Inclusion means exclusion of white people. Equity means stealing from white people. Getting 143 likes. Those are most of the top comments. And again, because if you look at people who are mostly libertarian or right-leaning, as this has become, kind of a political thing as well, I think these statues are going to basically stay up forever. They're not going to try to tear them down. They're not going to spray paint them. I think they'll just be there forever. Maybe someone will put a funny hat on them or something in terms of like not permanent destruction of property. Here's one more, which is probably one of the best juxtapositions of art and crap. The new one being crap. This is from Palmetto State Conservatives saying, quote, they tear down beautiful statues representing our history, our culture, and replace them with ugly statues of fat Shaniquas. They're attempting to wipe out Western civilization and replace it with third world shit. And again, this is it. They say right-wing art, but it's just, that's like 300 years old. I believe, I forget the artist who actually sculpted that, but there's a sculpture of a woman with a veil over her head, which, again, that's hand-carved with no technology or, a hammer or chisel back in the day. The amount of detail is breathtaking and true skill and talent. Then you have the brown statue with, again, there's no details. She has a couple fold marks in her t-shirt, but again, nothing. It is a very rudimentary design that pretty much nearly anyone could do. That got 249 likes. So let me know, do you think these statues will stay up for 1 year, 5 year, 20 years plus? Let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the political part of the podcast, you have Letitia James being called out for mortgage fraud. As usual, they call out others for what they actually do themselves. Now, the lawfare from her accusing Donald Trump, where he actually didn't break the law, and apparently she allegedly did, because she allegedly listed her father on a mortgage application. And another time, she said, to get a loan for her house, she said, oh yeah, I'm going to live there. And instead, she just rented it out, which again, believe it or not, that actually does affect her interest rate. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Benny Johnson. He says, quote, Letitia James just got called out in her face at a town hall over allegations of mortgage fraud after her witch hunt against Donald Trump. She snapped and the man was thrown out from the party of peace and tolerance. Haha, that's a political joke because, yeah, they're the party of censorship and intolerance. And his voice is much better than mine, so without too much further ado, go ahead and have this man speak.
Yes, my question is for Tush James. Will you apologize to President Trump for wasting millions of dollars and the state of New York for a witch trial? And how does it feel to know that you will be imprisoned for mortgage fraud?
Thank you for coming.
Your boos mean nothing. I know what makes you cheer. And in true conservative values, he is actually in shape. Kind of a joke because, the mainstream media claims and says you can only be right-wing if you go to the gym.
We want to thank him for coming. We respect all opinions. Everybody knows those allegations are baseless. They're discredited. And so we want to thank him.
Yeah, Democrats also set up a special fund so that she can pay for her defense. They actually set up funds that could only be used under certain circumstances that only she is in right now. Coincidence, I'm sure. That got about 500,000 views and 14,000 likes. Now, one of the first comments comes to us thanks to Gunther Eagleman saying, quote, I would buy this guy a beer any day, getting 607 likes. Barefoot Pregnant says, quote, her witch hunt against Donald Trump is falling apart and now she's lashing out, getting 42 likes. RLN says, picture of Chris Farley and her, says, remember when you tried Trump for fraud and now they've got you for fraud? That was awesome. Getting 95 likes. You also have Chi-Town John having the little AI, I forget what you call the AI trend where everyone's making AI toys. It says Jailbird James, it's Letitia James as a toy. And the accessories are handcuffs, a gavel, and a book on fraud. Getting 83 likes. Going down more and more. Tim says, TikTok Tish, and she has a tweet from 2024 saying no one is above the law. Getting 150 likes, and yeah, one of the cliche things Democrats say, but they don't actually mean. I think the most hilarious thing is when Joe Biden said no one is above the law. And what was it, 3 weeks later, he pardoned his son for everything. as well as a bunch of other people. And then he himself actually faced no repercussions for improper storage of documents. They basically said, oh yeah, can't charge him, he's too old, he doesn't know what he's doing. But then they went ahead and tried to throw Donald Trump in prison for the same exact thing. Let's see. I don't see any too many contrary statements. Liberal Puppet Master says, quote, I thought they were going to they were against throwing out people of their own town halls. Where's the left outrage over this? Only outrage when we do things, rules for thee, not for me. Play here, getting 147 likes. Precisely. VJT says, I agree Letitia James owns President Trump and the taxpayers an apology. This political targeting is a waste and only divides our country even further, getting 109 likes. What the heck? Robert says, nice. There's a picture of a guy with a cup of coffee in his car. Says, I was lonely until I glued my cup. Random, but kind of funny. He says, I was lonely until I glued a cup of coffee to the top of my car. Now everyone waves at me. Getting 38 likes. Kind of funny. Let's see here. Well, Lida Oriago says, quote, Letitia James, define baseless. Facts and documents don't lie. I know you're a liar. You are a liar. Corrupt. Here's a picture. What is this? Okay, and I believe this is a picture of her mortgage, maybe? Enlist Robert James and Letitia James' wife. That got 143 likes. A lot of people are doing that same one. Hope Auto also says, is that your signature? Boo-boo? Or boo-hoo? No, boo-boo. Okay. Getting 28 likes as well. Now, that being said, when's the last time Republicans held anyone accountable? Not saying it's never happened, but pretty darn rare. It'll happen right when they stand up for gun rights, which been over 100 days, Trump. What's happening? Repeal that NFA. It's been around since 1934. But I partially digress. Do you think she'll actually, face any repercussions in reality, or just get a $50 fine or something like that, like, Hillary Clinton? Though I should say, for the record, Hillary Clinton is a very beautiful, intelligent woman, not at all corrupt, and have a disproportionate amount of people around her who committed suicide. I think like 58 people, and she definitely not corrupt at all. Coincidentally, I do want to say I don't own any rope, and while I am single, I do plan to live a long, healthy, fruitful life. Just coincidentally want to throw that out there. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have the Secret Service testing the Chevrolet Corvette and Cadillac CT5V Blackwing. Now, these are some of the coolest cars. So obviously, the Cadillac, because it comes with a stick shift. It's brought to us thanks to Nico at the Drive, and they say, quote, the Secret Service is testing the Chevy Corvette and Cadillac CT5V Blackwing. The sports cars are part of a 10-vehicle package GM recently sent the U.S. Secret Service for testing and evaluation. And while I don't like the new Corvette because it's automatic only and boring as hell in that regard, it does look kind of cool in the orange there. Not too shabby. Hopefully they have a picture of Cadillac here, though. There's a cliche GM SUV, which all look alike. There's a Cadillac CT5V Blackwing, which is a marvel in engineering, one of the coolest cars out there. And if I won the lottery, that'd be at least one of the cars I'd buy. With a stick shift, obviously. It's sad to think that of all the things General Motors makes, only 2 cars are stick shift these days. The Cadillac CT4V and the CT5V. That's all that's left. They killed the Camaro. I don't know what Mary Barr's thinking. And the Corvette's been auto only for the C8 generation Corvette, which is an abomination to the Corvette. But I partially digress. Dive into the specifics of the actual article here. Again, credit to Nico at thedrive.com. They say, quote, the genre of, oh no, the president has been kidnapped movies is sort of a dead. But back when they were popular, Channing Tatum was patriotically kicking ass on screen. There were often several chase scenes that required Secret Service agents to commandeer civilian or police vehicles in a different county and country. As it turns out, such vehicular action is actually a real possibility and therefore requires real training, which General Motors is willing to help out with. And an important part of the training is teaching young agents to drive any type of automobile, even one with a stick. Which again, the Corvette is automatic only because GM is stupid, but Cadillac does come with that option. GM donated a fleet of performance vehicles to the Secret Service James J. Rowley Training Center in Laurel, Maryland, and among them were 4 Cadillac sports sedans, 2 CT4s, and 2 CT5s. Of those, a paired manual transmission, indicating they were Blackwing models, which is awesome. Literally the best of the best engineering GM has. It's a low bar, I know, but still really cool stuff. They say that even though they will almost certainly never be an official Secret Service vehicle with a stick, nevertheless, the agents can travel overseas to protect their VIPs. Manual transmissions are more commonplace outside the States, which they are. It's sad that they're not more common here. They'll say, so they can't afford to be stopped by 3 pedals and a stick. Now, this is the RTC driving instructor, Mark Armstrong, saying, quote, not everyone is able to operate a manual shift. Having this platform here will enable us to give instruction on how to drive manual vehicles for overseas trips. Unquote. They say even sedans can be foreign to many agents. These days, police vehicles tend to be SUVs since they can carry many people and gear. But in other countries, government sedans are still commonplace, and agents need to be familiar with them. RTC instructor says, quote, most companies aren't making four-door sedans anymore that are police capable, unquote. But GM didn't only send those caddy sedans, they provided a range of different vehicles so the agents could broaden their scope of training and learn about different platforms and how they might have to use them in the future. And more realistically, what do they do when they inevitably break? Because they're GM vehicles. I'm only partially kidding. Ford has had more recalls this year, 40, which is ridiculous. Now, they also dropped off a Cadillac Escalade, a Chevrolet Colorado ZR2, a police package Chevy Tahoe, Chevy Suburban, and 2 Corvettes. One was an E-Ray, which, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to justify that application. Now, granted, they got this for free. Who cares? Now, they say the big SUVs are the likeliest to join an active duty fleet, but it doesn't matter. But that doesn't mean the other vehicles can't one day see action outside the training course. They also have Druko saying, quote, I think it'd be really cool to try out all these different platforms to figure out which is going to fit and what we can use. The times are changing, and so is the rest of the world, so we have to do the same thing. Let's see. I think you see the whole fleet of vehicles here. There you can see all the GM products that were shipped over there. Now they say, quote, is that really true, or did the Secret Service just want to blow some of his training budget on track days? They say, quote, experience with different types of vehicles help instructors teach students how to adapt their driving techniques based on the vehicles they are operating, says Scott Simmons, the special agent in charge of RTC. Because each vehicle handles differently in any given opportunity, exposure to new cars will challenge instructors and give them an opportunity to develop more realistic training scenarios. Those more unusual vehicles are also sure to surprise students, who are more likely counting on Escalades and Yukons to play the suspect vehicles in training scenarios. Instructor Brandon Bohick says, quote, these students wouldn't be expecting it. We won't have these vehicles in view, so they won't know it's out there. They may be expecting a police SUV, and all of a sudden one of these vehicles rolls up. We try to make it as realistic as possible out there, which is not always easy to do, unquote. At the end of the day, unlikely though it might be, a Secret Service agent jump into a manual Blackwing to rescue the president's daughter is not impossible. Plus, it's all made for a fun day of training, which, yeah, again, in terms of the CT, yeah, the Blackwings, even though I love them, only 50% of them are stick shifts, which is a very high percentage, but anecdotally speaking, if you discount car shows, and again, this is very anecdotal evidence just in, Texas, I think I've seen maybe 6 Cadillac Blackwings in the past couple of years. So I can't help but think that's just kind of GM maybe trying to make them smile a little bit or have some more, have a little more fun at the track. And obviously, they look at General Motors, the government contracts they get, overwhelmingly, they're the SUVs. Just like, more often than not, wherever you are locally, there's probably a 50-50 chance it's usually GM SUV or Ford SUV. Though I think the criminals would probably prefer the Ford since they probably inevitably break when they're trying to catch you. But I'm only partially kidding. Pretty cool to see some, fun automobiles mixed in the political news. And it will be interesting to see if there's any real orders of the sedans for government contracts. It's so rare. I think the Chevy Caprice, which was a V8, a V8 sedan for police agents, that was common for some counties and obviously state level. But in terms of government employees, we'll see. There's a lot of rumors that the new, presidential limousine will actually be the Escalade stretched out. There's a lot of speculation in that regard. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have a gas valve being recalled because it might just burn you as the Canadians fight back. I'm only partially kidding, though. It is a Canadian product. This is brought to us thanks to the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, perhaps the only useful government website. Granted, that's a pretty darn low bar, but still. They say, quote, Delta gas ball valves recalled due to a fire and burn hazards manufactured by Masco, Canada. Suspiciously enough, I don't see a maple leaf or moose imprint on the valve, though it does say Delta. Looks like he even had an option for a double valve. Pretty fancy stuff, Canadians. Now, they say the hazard is, quote, small amounts of gas can leak from the valve when it's in the open position, posing a fire and burn hazards. They also know this is going to affect about 3,700 of these units, of which 18.5 were sold in Canada. Which, well, yeah, at least, thankfully, the incident report says, silver lining, no one's blown up yet, or no one's been hurt yet. These are sold exclusively at plumbing supply distributors nationwide from January 2006 all the way through January 2025. I was going to say, that's a lot of years for you not to notice that problem. They're sold for between $30 and $160. Jeez Louise. That's a pretty penny for fancy shiny valve. Gosh darn. Now, specifically, they say, quote, this recall involves all models of Delta-branded gas ball valves. These are chrome, manually operated gas valves sold by Mazda Miata Limited and Delta Faucet Company for use in school, research, and hospital laboratories, which it does look kind of familiar. It's where you put that little rubber tube on there, and it has the ridges on there so it sticks there automatically. You see the valves were used to control the flow of gas, acting as a on-off valve for the gas delivery. All the models have the word Delta on at least one side of the chrome-colored sides of the body, and the word gas written on the white and blue colored top. The recall models are also identifiable by the half PSI max and gas stamped on the bottom. This says gas on there. Is that a foreign word? G-A-Z? I guess it is. I'll be damned. Now they say consumers should immediately stop using the recalled Delta branded gas ball valves and contact Masco Canada to confirm that their product is part of the recall and receive instructions on how to get refund. They say Masco Canada will reimburse the cost of labor to remove the units and dispose of them, which that's pretty rare. I'm surprised they're actually going to cover that labor cost. And they are also contacting all known purchasers directly. They're also imported by Delta Faucet Company of Indianapolis, Indiana. Recall number is 25-255. And I was going to say, definitely not good news when you might blow up the school with your gas valve. Though thankfully, again, they got ahead of the recall, so no one's been hurt from them. And shoot, it's government contracts, so their business is probably pretty secure. I don't know how many people are realistically competing on these bids. But still gotta say, with the low quality assurance department, or allegedly not even having one, maybe. I'm kidding with the last part, they probably have one. But gotta say, Delta, you are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Again, trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comments. Great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.